What's good, class, and welcome back to another edition of Mr. Fitzgerald's biology class. And as you can see from the title, we're in a new unit with new information, and we're starting off with cells. So we're going to dive into the cell theory and the cell membrane over the next couple days to kind of break up this new unit on cells apart into its different pieces. But first, we're going to start off with theories and laws, because you can't really get any farther until you know what those are. So the guiding question for us, and what we really want you to be able to answer by the end of this day today, is how does a theory compare to a law? Like, how are those two ideas separate? How are they different from each other? What similarities might they share? So we're really going to investigate that a little bit today. So first thing I want you to do is tell me what you know first. So take a few moments and actually write down what you know. So a theory is, so at this point you should be writing down like examples of when you've heard the word theory, or how you've heard it used before, or what you think that definition is based on your prior knowledge. Once you finish that, write down what a law is. Again, use your prior knowledge. Don't look it up on Google. I want you to be aware of what you know first to see how your definitions compare to what I'm going to tell you throughout. Most times students have a lot of similarities with the science definitions from these words. They just need to fine-tune them a little bit. So starting off by writing out what you already know is a great way to go. Go ahead and pause the video for a moment if you need to and get that done. Now, hopefully at this point you have your theory and law, what you believe they are or what you think that they are based on your prior knowledge, written down. Below that, I want you to make a T-chart. Put law on one side, theory on another. Leave a lot of space, basically use the rest of your page because we are going to pretty much fill this in. Just leave a little bit of gap at the bottom where I'm going to tie it all together at the end, so that way you can get the big overall ideas, okay? So we're going to fill in this progressively as we go. The first thing I want you to do is check out the Canvas reading that's available there, and I want you to write down one thing that you gain from each. A law and a theory based on the reading that I provided on Canvas. So make sure that you go ahead and look at that. Next, I want you to add a video piece to this. So on your T-chart that you've already added your ideas from the reading that we've had, I want you to add in things from this video that you see. So let's go ahead and get that video started.
What is it this time, Sir Isaac Newton?
Albert, I don't understand the difference between a law and a theory. Can you help me, Mr. Einstein?
Yes, I can help you, Sir Newton. A law is a constantly repeated observation in nature. A law is generally accepted to be true and universal.
You mean, like the law of gravity? The law that I, Sir Isaac Newton, discovered? Yes.
Moving on. A theory. Theories are much more harder to come by. A theory is what one or more hypotheses become once they have overwhelming support. A theory is an extremely well-tested explanation of a set of related observations or events based upon proven hypotheses. Thus, my theory of relativity, the explanation of your law of gravity, was much harder to figure. Therefore, it was a much bigger accomplishment than your apple-hitting head incident. Next time think twice about coming here and trying to school me. I will take you any time, anywhere.
This didn't go according to plan.
Now, I know we both have work to do.
Yes. Okay. Lunch on Tuesday.
Sure, Mr. Newton. Bye. Sir Newton.
Yes?
Get out of my office.
Make me.
All right, so looking at the reading and looking at the video, we've seen a couple different definitions for these words, law and theory. So I'm going to focus on theory first. It's the one that most students struggle with a little bit, so I really want to start there. Now, a theory, if I were to break it down into its simplest terms, is an explanation of something that's occurring in nature, either something you're observing, something you're witnessing. You're trying your best with a scientific understanding to explain what you're seeing. often we use this to answer questions like how and why. So if I'm looking at something like, how does a light switch when I turn it on actually make the lights turn on? I need a real well thought out explanation to really drive me to understanding what's going on in the circuits and the electron flow within the wires, all of that. I can't do that unless I have a very well thought out, broad explanation that probably came from a couple tests and maybe a couple different instruments like a voltmeter, maybe some resistance that I was checking throughout the electrical circuit, so I can really dive into it. What most students do struggle with is this idea that theories are proven. A lot of students like to come up with this idea that theories are guesses, or theories are just what people just think randomly. No, they're good explanations based on data, so they do have some weight to them. Me saying that if I turn on the light switch, it's going to cause an electrical current and then flow through the circuit to allow the lights to illuminate is a very well thought out and testable explanation that we can use. And we can go ahead and say that that is proven based on everything we know today. What most students then kind of say is, well, theories do change. And actually that's what makes them beautiful and what makes them fantastic, is as we get new information, we can adapt, we can add pieces in, we can take pieces out that might not have been the best, but they were the best we had at the time. We usually don't throw an entire theory out. We just kind of modify it and tweak it as we get new information and get a much better explanation that's more well thought out. On the other hand, a law is something that is a short description. I always say this is the one that is what most students think is like canon or something that has to be followed because it's short and it's easy to remember. For instance, what goes up must come down. We can easily remember that, and that's kind of the law of gravity, right? If I throw an object up, it's going to fall. Or if I look at mathematical equations like force is equal to the mass of an object multiplied by its acceleration, that's easy to remember because it's a short description. And what those descriptions are telling me is what I'm observing. It's not telling me how it works, it's not telling me why it works, it's just telling me what it is. If I throw an object, it's going to fall. I know that because that's what I'm going to observe. If I am calculating the force of something, if I know if I have a bigger object, more mass, I know I'm going to have more force at this similar acceleration to a smaller object. So it's not explaining how it's working, it's just telling me what is happening overall. So this does provide some sort of relationship for us to kind of follow. They're short, they're quick, which is why most students think these are better because they think this idea of it's short and I can remember it, and it's got that law word behind it like, oh, the police are gonna get me if I break this. No, they're just short relationships that we can easily see and understand. Whereas theories are a little bit more explanation, a little bit more nuance, and sometimes we have to make some inferences or make some jumps because the data doesn't fully fill it in yet. Hopefully the data fills it in and makes it more complete and stronger as we go. So ultimately, when we compare theories versus a law, remember that a theory is an explanation for what we're observing. It's not that it's false, it's not that it's unproven. It has multiple tests, it has multiple observations, it's got multiple scientists, a lot of different data, and it's the best explanation that we have for what we're viewing. Whereas a law is just a short mathematical or some sort of description relationship that tells us what's going on instead of why or how it's happening, like a theory. The key thing to know, if you forget everything after today, please remember this and write this down at the bottom of your T-chart. A law cannot become a theory, and a theory cannot become a law. Let's read that again. A law cannot become a theory, and a theory cannot become a law. Those two ideas are completely separate, and they usually coexist with each other. For instance, I might have this short description. If I turn on the light switch, the lights turn on. It's not telling me how it's happening or why it's happening. It's giving me a simple what. I turn on a light switch, the lights come on. A why or an how would need a theory to go along with that, where we can talk about the flow of electricity, the building of circuits, versus all the other pieces that are involved, right? So that's going to be more of a theory. One does not beat another. They're equal in this sense, But they can't become each other. Just because I have a good theory doesn't mean it becomes law, because a why about something can never become a description about something. A what about something can never become a why about something. I need a lot more information to make it a why. That's what makes that a theory. I need short descriptions that makes it a what. That's what makes it a law. All right. Hopefully you gained a lot of knowledge about today. Hopefully you've got a better understanding of law and theory, and also hopefully your definitions were pretty close. You just had to add a couple words. Other than that, Mr. Fitz signing off. Have a good time.